Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jen Scherze, and I just want to welcome you to today's webinar, A Concept-Based Approach to Teaching Pathophysiology. So at this time, I'd like to introduce author and nursing faculty member, Lachelle Story. Take it away, Lachelle.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining us here today. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself so you could kind of understand more of what shaped my teaching pedagogy and the approach that I took with this book. I started out my nursing career about 22 years ago as an LPN. I worked my way up the educational ladder while gaining a wide range of clinical experience, including long-term care, primary care clinics, med-surg units, intensive care, and emergency care. Throughout my educational journey, I had some of the best faculty I could have ever asked for who shaped me as a nurse and as an educator. I knew early that I wanted to have that same impact on people and influence nursing on a larger scale. I started teaching about 17 years ago as an adjunct while in graduate school. I have also had a diverse teaching experience with all levels of nursing education from LPN to PhD. Pathophysiology was one of my first teaching assignments when I started working at the University of Southern Mississippi 13 years ago. I was fascinated by the content, but I was challenged with helping students grasp it and enjoy it as much as I did. I have taught patho ever since. Currently, I'm an associate professor, and I serve as our Assistant Dean for Research and Evaluation, Interim Chair of the Advanced Practice Department, and PhD Program Director. So I teach and interact with students at all levels of expertise. My research has also been a significant influence on my pedagogy. I attempt to minimize health disparities by using a community-based participatory research approach. The influence of working from an adult learning principle and an emancipatory framework can be seen in my teaching approach. So why a new patho textbook? Do you feel your students are overwhelmed by the copious amounts of patho material? Do you struggle helping students connect and understand the complex material? Are you wanting students to engage more? Are you ready for a practical, student-friendly patho book? Well, if so, this text may be what you're looking for. Pathophysiology, while being the foundation of much of nursing education, is often an insurmountable barrier to students. They are faced with large amounts of complicated information that they have to weed through. And while students sometimes become bogged down in this information marsh, others seem to seek more information than what is provided in a skeleton book that has been cut to the bone. Nursing faculty join the students on this frustrating Goldilocks journey by trying to make the available resources fit. Nursing students and faculty have patho books available that provide usually either far too much information or far too little. This pathophysiology book is a practical guide to patho that provides information in a student-friendly, understandable way. The text provides a springboard for faculty and students to come together as co-learners to explore this fascinating content. When such co-learning is stimulated, pathophysiology is no longer just mindlessly deposited into students in a stifling manner. Rather, learning for the students and the faculty becomes an empowerment pedagogy. I wanted to write the first edition because I was looking for a better way of presenting this complex material than what I had available. Students wouldn't read the text because they were so overwhelming and complex. I wanted to approach the content in more of a pragmatic way. What was it that beginning nurses really needed to know about patho, and how could I get the information across in a way that they would understand it? I knew I had to make them want to read it, and in a time where students are overloaded with information, but in short pieces of electronic information, I had to make it visually appealing and non-intimidating. So I made a conscious effort to ensure that you could open any 2 pages of the book and you wouldn't find just text. I used a great deal of visual aids to add context and meaning as well as augment the text. I felt that if I could increase student engagement and understanding, then I would build their confidence with this foundational material and put them on a path for success in the future classes that they were going to take, as well as in practice. Several things shaped the book as it evolved into the second edition. We had recent calls for reform of nursing education. These reports recommended approaches to set students on a path for lifelong learning and give context to learning. So for the second edition, I reorganized the book in a more conceptual manner. I started the disease sections with an overview of the concepts for the upcoming group of conditions. Understanding those concepts would prevent things like fragmentation of the information and help students focus on the bigger picture. I also added a new feature in each chapter called Application to Practice, where I took students through prioritization and delegation exercises to help them understand how they will use this information in everyday practice. So as I considered changes for the third edition, I tried to consider ways to engage students more with the content. But first I wanted to continue the features that had received positive feedback from the students from the previous editions. But I wanted to take engagement to the next level. I've seen a move in education to a more active learning strategies. So I started incorporating these approaches a few years ago. Over the years, I've tried many things that worked and others that were not quite so successful. Over the years, I learned that many students are not prepared for these active learning approaches. And as I attempted to mentor my colleagues in their efforts, it became clear that many faculty were not sure where to even start. So I wanted to provide resources to help faculty get started or expand their active learning strategies with this content. Faculty who used the book also asked for more pediatric content, so it has been also added throughout. For example, the common fetal heart defects were added to the cardiovascular chapter. Additionally, faculty asked for more case studies. So some of the current studies were expanded and new ones have been added. To give faculty more testing options, more test bank questions were added. These items came from questions that I've worked with over the years to fine-tune and base them on statistical analysis. Because students have reported enjoying the visual aspects of the book, we worked to add more detail to many of the images to make them more realistic. I attempted to capture some of the activities that I use to engage students through active learning in the faculty resources. A few years ago, I started using the flipped classroom approach, which meant I no longer did traditional lectures. I feel that the classroom time is better spent learning how to apply the information, which is what most students had the most trouble with. So that meant students had to take responsibility for class preparation seriously for the class activities to work. I found that if you're clear with the expectations and teach them how to do it, they will flourish with this approach. An important lesson I learned over the years is that all student groups are different. What speaks to one group may not speak to others. And I found that I had to be willing to adjust my plans no matter how well laid out I had them. And sometimes I had to do that in real time in the classroom in the middle of an activity. For many students, pathophysiology is one of the first nursing classes they take. So they're not only trying to learn complex material, they're trying to learn how to test differently and to think like a nurse. So I included a variety of group activities to help the students learn how to process and think about information differently, develop memory aids, learn how to prioritize, and to teach empathy and to gain a deeper understanding. I also included class activities in the faculty resources to show how to apply pathophysiology content, as well as how to connect this content to other classes they're taking, such as assessment. This text is different from other patho texts on the market because it does not overwhelm the students with excessive detail, but it provides sufficient detail to develop understanding and build a foundation for future learning. And it provides a clinical context and engages students. This book offers several benefits to students. First, it's clinically relevant, it's visually appealing, it's easily understood, it's almost conversational, and it's very practical. This book, and particularly this edition, offers several benefits to faculty. It supports current trends in practice and education. Students will want to actually use it. It assists in teaching students how to apply information to practice, and it provides resources to increase student engagement. These activities I provided in the faculty resources can be used to augment what you are already doing in the classroom. You do not have to completely flip the classroom to use them. You can use them to any degree that you wish or feel comfortable with as you're trying to learn how to move closer toward a flipped classroom. And here are some other ways to increase student engagement. I find that case studies are a good way to add context to the information, especially with students with limited clinical experience with the topic. You can easily develop these from your own clinical experience. Classroom response systems like iClicker, or even the many free apps and websites available online, such as Kahoot, can be used to engage students in a way that they're comfortable with. Many of them are constantly on their phones anyway. These systems can help break up the class time, give them something to do with their hands. And the other great aspect is that they can help you uncover misconceptions that they may have. It can establish baseline knowledge and evaluate knowledge attainment after any activity. Pre-planned or on-the-fly patient scenarios or use of simulation is another good option to explore topics as class develops, especially if you find that the students are having a misconception about a topic. Practicing delegation and prioritization is critical for students to master these skills. Students often have trouble with this, and I think that it helps students to talk through the decision-making process with an expert before having to do it on their own. Games are another way to pique interest and break up some of the class time. Students are highly competitive in general, and it shows that the content can be fun. Also use the Navigate eFolio quizzes as exam preparation. NCLEX-style questions are new to most of the students, and they struggle with understanding how to answer them. Taking practice questions are a great way to improve that skill as well as to determine exam readiness. And in this way, it can be done in a way that there's not as high a stakes as it would be as trying to figure it out on an exam. For my classes, I have the students, they can earn 1 point on each exam if they make a minimum score of 90% on the chapter exam. They only get 2 attempts to take it, and they have to wait at least 24 hours in between attempts in order to encourage the student to go back to the content and study. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Liam for a demonstration of the Navigate to Premier. Liam?
Okay, thank you, Michelle. While that's pulling up, I did just want to kind of reiterate that every new textbook will come with access to Navigate 2 included in the book, but you can also buy an all-digital package that is available at a lower cost as well. In addition to being able to use Navigate 2, which I'm going to show you in a moment, it is a fully functional learning management system, but it does integrate with Canvas and with Blackboard. So you can associate your Navigate 2 course with your Blackboard or Canvas course. In addition, if you use Moodle or D2L, we will have test banks that are available, so if you need to, you can have the test banks imported into Moodle or D2L. With Navigate 2, it is a fully functional learning management system, so once you log navigate to, you get brought to this main page here. This is where you're going to be able to see all the content that we've pre-built into the course for you. So if you select one of the chapters, it's going to open up and it's going to show you all the content that is available. All of this content is available for students right out of the box within the course, but you do have the ability to hide it if there's anything you do not want your students to see. You will also have the capability of adding in your own content into the course as well. So if you want to add in a new topic or add in your own content into an existing chapter, you can very easily do that. All you need to do is just drag and drop it from your computer, and I just actually drag 2 files, and it's going to go in and upload them into the course. So it's very customizable. If you don't teach in the order of the chapter, you can very easily come over here and drag and drop the chapters in the order that you want. And if something you do not want the students to see, you can hide something as well within the course. And it becomes grayed out. This means students cannot see it, but as the instructor in the course, you will be able to see it. And then with student resources, if we open up on the chapters again, you'll see we're going to be adding things like learning objectives, a link to the e-book, which I'll show you more in a moment, and then we have flashcards and slides and other items that we've added. Now, what I'm showing you right now is actually the 2nd edition of Pathophysiology, because the 3rd edition is not out. So we are adding more content into the 3rd edition, like interactive lectures, which will be available for students to take. If we come over here and select the e-book, this is going to bring up the textbook. As you can see, it looks exactly like the print textbook. It's just a digital version of it. In addition to reading the e-book on the computer, we also have an app that is available as well. It's called Navigate eReader, and it is a free app that students and instructors can download. And you just sign into it with the same username and password you use to access the course. And that's how you can read the e-book on a mobile device, like an iPad or an Android tablet, and it also gives your students the ability to take the book offline as well. So that can be very helpful for either students who purchases the all-digital package or, has the print book but wants something that they can take in a smaller package. Within the e-book, we've added some additional resources. So we've added in animations into the e-book for students to watch, and these are going to be updated. But these are animation students can come over. There is audio that is available. Some of these animations on the 2nd edition are activities for students to complete. So we do have a lot of different animations that we've added in, as well as some additional content. Included in the book are e-book quizzes. So we do have e-book quizzes that are available for students right out of the box that students can go in and take. Once they complete these e-book quizzes, it will report that grade, so they can see which score they received right away. And then from their grade book, they can go in and they can see what they got right and what they got wrong within the e-book quizzes. Also within the e-book, you have the capability of adding in notes. So instructors can add notes, and they can also decide to share their notes with their students right within the e-book. Students can only go in and make notes for themselves. And they can also come over here and add in highlights within the book as well. And then once they save that, they can either save it to their browser like I did now, but if they use the app, they can download those notes and highlights through the app as well. So coming back to the course, you'll see here that we also have these learning tools and teaching tools tab up top. So with the learning tools, this is just some additional content students can see, as well as rearranging the content that we already have on the main page for the students. So for instance, all the links to the e-books are together, all the flashcard links are together. So if students decide they want to come in here and access the material this way, they can do that. And then we've also added in this teaching tool. So teaching tools is only available for teachers. Students will not have access to this. And this is where you're going to find things like the instructor manual, sample syllabus, a transition guide. These are the type of items that will get added into the teaching tools because students won't need access to them. They're only going to be found right here. And then through reports and grades, this is where you can have access to the gradebook. So I don't have any students in this course, but if we came in here and had students, we'll be able to see the full gradebook here with all the grades, and all your students will show up here on the left. And then as the instructor, if you want to add in activities, you can come down here. You'll see there's add an activity or resource. You can add them directly into the chapter. And this is where you have the capability of adding in assignments into the course. You can also come over here and add in discussion forums, and those can be graded or ungraded. And then right here, navigate to assessment. This is where you have the capability of creating and assigning quizzes into the course, and where you'll have access to our test bank that we've provided to you, so you can go in and create anything ranging from practice activities all the way to graded finals, right through navigate to assessments. And those will report directly into the gradebook. And then down here with resources, if you need to, you can link out to different websites. And then over here with Page, a lot of instructors will use that to embed YouTube videos or other websites like YouTube directly into the course. So that way students don't have to go to YouTube to watch the video. If you want to share a video, you can embed it right in the course, and they can watch that video still stream from YouTube right within the course. So that is kind of a brief overview, of Navigate 2. If you reach out to your account manager, we can set you up with a much deeper overview of Navigate 2, and we can also go and talk about further details about how it can integrate into Canvas and Blackboard and all those options we have. If you have to use another learning management system, that's something we can work with you on. So at this time, I am going to pass it back to Jen.
Great. Thanks, Liam, for that outstanding product demonstration, and thank you, Lachelle, for such an in-depth overview of your upcoming textbook, as well as how you can use it in the classroom. Lachelle, if you don't mind going to the very last slide, that just gives a couple of URLs for the attendees so that they can see how they can request a review copy. The text will be publishing in March. And I'm going to invite the operator on the line to instruct participants how to ask a question if they wish to do so.
Yes, ma'am. At this time, if you would like to ask a question, please press star followed by the number 1 on your telephone keypad. We'll pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster.
Great. Thanks, Deirdre. And also, if anyone has any questions and they want to message me directly, you can do that as well. I'm just trying to go through questions right now. It doesn't look like we have any. Just wanted to reiterate how you can go ahead and request a review copy. If you visit the URL on the screen, that's go.jblearning.com/patho3e. You can request a review copy, get a little bit more information about the textbook. You're also able to download this presentation if you go to the Samples tab that's located toward the bottom half of the product page found at that URL. And like Liam said, if you would like to learn more about Navigate 2, you can request a demo by visiting jblnavigate.com/2. We can make sure that your account manager sets you up so that you can review the product in more depth. And lastly, we also have Lachelle's contact information there as well. Deirdre, do we have anyone on the line?
Yes, ma'am. We do have John Beadle.
Okay, go ahead, John.
Hey, thanks for this informative platform. I appreciate that. The content, or the question I have is more content related, and it's probably more towards Lachelle.
Okay.
One of the things that I find when I look through text, and I'm a deeply pathophysiology-based instructor, some of the pathophysiology texts out there lack some of the key common pathophysiological conditions in which my students will encounter. How did you go about, and how do you decide which pathophysiological concepts you're going to include and or add in the future or drop based on, what students are actually seeing in the everyday clinical practice?
That is a great question, and I know especially early on I really struggled with trying to make decisions on what should make the cut, basically. And I really tried to make that decision based on who my audience was for this particular book, and it was most of the time the early nursing students. And I was thinking from the perspective of I need to get them to understand just basic things that they could then get a deeper understanding for later, and it would help them build on for other concepts. So things like, for instance, the inflammatory process, to me is a basic process that comes up over and over again throughout many disease processes. And so those were the kind of concepts that I felt very strongly about keeping in. And so I really try to draw upon the issues that I had with students in the classroom, really try what concepts they had the most trouble with, that we had to revisit a lot because they didn't get it the first time. So when it came up again in another topic, you know, I tried to be mindful of those kind of things. Also, early on, we had many reviewers of the manuscript to begin with to see what were the things that I was missing, and then we tried to make a determination of what of that review needed to be in. So, for instance, some of us, you know, depending on our clinical practice, we tend to focus on different things because that's our area of expertise. So I try to draw upon that, the others' area of expertise, but also considering, was this really something that a beginning nurse needed to know? And so that was really where I came at it. And then each year or each edition, we tried to think about and collect any feedback we had gotten over the edition, both from students and or faculty. We, you know, solicited reviews as well as solicited reviews from faculty as well as from students to try to make sure that we had included everything that was really essential and needed, but didn't let it slip into that point where it was too much. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. And if I maybe allowed one just short follow-up question, if that's okay. Mm-hmm. Do you and has your team looked at how to? I completely appreciate the focus of what you're saying and how you brought you know, input from others. However, you did mention we do get kind of locked into our own either geographical trends that we see or our tendencies within our own schools and you know, places in which we work. My question is, have you looked at how to level across to like the NCLEX mapping or the common content areas in which students are going to both experience from the NCLEX world, or I guess that's my question, from the, you know, sure, mapped it across towards the NCLEX mapping.
Yeah, and that's a good point, and probably for the next edition that would be a good next step. What I think that since pathophysiology as a standalone topic is not exactly an NCLEX, but it gets tied to other areas. So I tried to, both in the activities as well as in the textbook, tried to help them understand how pathophysiology is associated with their more obvious nursing classes, whether they're fundamentals or adult health or med-surg or whatever they're called at their particular school, as well as things like assessment and pharmacology, and really try to get them to focus on it being the basis of how all those other things happen, our treatments and et cetera. And so, but as far as a content mapping to NCLEX, that's definitely a good point. I appreciate that.
No, thank you for your time. I appreciate, again, the platform in which you guys are presenting this is very helpful as we're looking towards adoption.
Oh, good. Well, thank you.
And our next question comes from Lucy DeLugosh.
Well, I guess yes, I got my question answered on the thing, but I teach advanced pathophysiology, so I was questioning whether it would be appropriate for that, but you know, your answer was that it's more geared toward beginning students.
Yes, yes, and I would think it would be a little too simple for a graduate student. But I think that any faculty that might be listening that is teaching in an LPN, an associate degree, or a BSN program, for sure this is. Now, if they're having trouble in an advanced class, it may not hurt for them to get back to the basics as a supplemental text, you know, to refer to it as a supplemental text. But more than likely for an advanced form, you would need another text.
Oh, yeah, right. I'd be happy to speak to someone about publishing something because I have about 5 different advanced patho books and they're just not meeting the needs for advanced nurse practitioners. And I was listening to your story of how you came to write this book, and I'm at the same stage, but for nurse practitioners. Yeah. You know, they're way too much information, very physician-oriented in the sense that, you know, nurses do not have that cytology course or that the basic sciences, and so I'm struggling with the same thing. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. I love your format.
Oh, good. Good luck to you on your search.
Before we take another question, hold on maybe just 1 second if you don't mind. I have a couple questions that I just wanted to ask Lachelle that have come in from the chat. The first, is this appropriate for 300 level? And maybe you've kind of covered that, but if you don't mind just addressing that.
Sure. I definitely think this would be a 300 level course. Depending on where it's taught, most of the time in the programs I have seen, they're usually taught that first year sometime, which would be about 300. Our courses are 300, and they're usually to juniors. But it's, regardless of it being a junior level course or a 300 level course, most of these students are almost like beginning over again because they've been generally in their prerequisites for 2 years, and it's usually their first year in nursing school. And I see them mentally and learning level-wise almost like a freshman. And now there's a lot of growth that happens in 4 to 5 semesters, but I think that first year they really struggle with trying to look at things differently and learning really for a purpose that is different than just taking a test. And so that's what I think this book tries to do. So I definitely think 300 level, it would be completely appropriate.
Great.
And that's
Thanks,
who it's definitely geared for.
And we have another faculty member who says that she teaches a combined nursing and then biology pathophysiology course, and she finds that the biology students get caught up in the I'm not a nurse. How do you handle non-nursing majors? And she's used both the first and second editions of your textbook.
Okay. Well, you know, I tried to, it's really hard to take the nurse out of anybody, I think, but I really tried to be aware that others might use this textbook that may be seeking other types of health professional degrees. And so if you look at it, you know, there are some nursing applications in it, but if you really think about it and help craft it with some of your activities, you can really gear it for the general health professional or even just the general biology major, because I'd like to think that they're studying biology for the sake of learning about diseases and maybe, you know, understanding normal biology as well, but I would like to think that them understanding the human impact of what these diseases have, and that these people are people and they're more than just the inflammatory mediators that are elevated, that I would like to think that this would still help them understand the material at a different level. You just have to really think about how to engage that content with them in the classroom, and I've included in this new faculty resource, I think you'll find some of these activities will do that for you. So I'm really excited to hear that you've used it for the first 2 editions, because I think in these faculty resources you're going to see some class activities that may help you reach them as well. And so it doesn't just have to be just about, you know, nurses learning it.
Thanks, Lachelle. Just want to thank Lachelle today for all of her great information and for giving some of us our teaching tips for how to use this textbook in their course. Also want to thank Liam for outlining Navigate 2, and like he had mentioned in the demo, if you want more of an in-depth demo, we can definitely set that up with your account manager. The textbook will be publishing in March. If you'd like to request a review copy, I will be sending a follow-up email with instructions on how you can do that. The slides will also be available on the product page. There's a samples tab on the product page on our website that you can go and download the PDF of these slides. So thanks everyone for joining us today. Have a great rest of the day and a great rest of the week.
Thank you.